It's December 19th, 2014. So I was just explaining how I ended up at Sherwood High School, and my attitude there and what I was doing, and then how these government kids basically stalked me out, and it looked like they were trying to include me, which I was grateful for, because I thought, well, I probably don't want to completely ostracize myself socially by being in this library all the time, working on a computer. But they really were stalking me. I mean, the group that I was asked to sit down and eat with was a group whose families I had been to. I had visited all of their houses, and their parents had all visited me. They were all government employees, and some of them had held me hostage. Others had quote-unquote babysat me for periods of time while my parents, Bob or Dixie, disappeared, and I didn't even know where they'd gone. It's like Bob and Dixie were disappearing a lot. You know, where were they? Where were they when I was suddenly at someone's house and they were babysitting me or torturing me or programming me down in their basement? And and I'm just kind of wondering what my parents are doing. Well, we have to run some errands, I mean, for days, or hours in a day. So, and I'm sure they were swapping the twins or triplets back and forth too some of the time, but I was taken to the Peters house, and I was taken down into their basement and tortured and electrocuted there and programmed. So that was a house that I was at. I was taken to the Adams house. Same thing. And the dad there was a psychologist, government psychologist. I was taken to the Allen's house, and they held me hostage and chained me up in a bedroom and made me sing songs. I was taken to the Rasmussen's house and had to stay there while my parents did some kind of work, and they wouldn't tell me what it was. And I got sexually assaulted there. Their uncle works directly for the FBI, and possibly one of them works directly for the FBI, and they just never told me that. And there were a number of different, they were not the only ones, but those are a few of the houses where I was babysat. I was also taken over to a couple of other Mormon houses. The Wiltbanks, the Harris residence, and Stevens, and I was either taken to the Sato's house or the Satos came over and visited one of the other houses, but I'm pretty sure I was at the Sato house too. And those last ones that I just mentioned all in a row, they were all Mormon and government connected Mormons. And then I was taken to the Lund house, for the whole sex abuse group trafficking when I was younger, but I wasn't taken over there to be babysat that I remember, although I was at one point taken to the same Jesuit school that Eric Lund ended up going to school at, and they had me go to this Jesuit school for a really short time. And I'm not sure if I was having a campus tour or if I just went to school there for like a week, or if I met some of the kids, or what exactly we were doing there. But I do remember being there. Before, I would say, this is of course when I was younger, before we moved there officially to this Sherwood area in 1990. So anyway, some of these government kids from Oregon, they had also participated, some of them, in driving or whatever, getting over to the Moses Lake, Washington area. And they also knew some of the people in the Moses Lake, Washington area that had abused me or assaulted me or used me or my family in some way. So there was this whole interconnected group between Oregon and Washington, and a lot of them are also connected to California. And then, as I've said in the past, some people were flying in from other states too. But it was definitely easier, or it wasn't difficult for these people from Oregon and Washington, California, to make frequent trips, more than once. So So anyway, that's how I ended up getting into this government group again. I just got sucked in, trapped like a fly in a cobweb, because the people that asked me to sit down and eat with them, I just said, okay, the first person who seemed nice enough to think of me to sit down and have lunch with them, like normal. I was trying to be normal, even though I wasn't completely normal. And so that is, I ended up sitting down at a table with Alicia Peters, Erica Wilbank, Shannon Adams, Monica Allen, Robin Bechtold, Jeff Rasmussen, Lenny Schwabe. It was an entire group of government kids whose families had assaulted me. And I didn't even remember. And these were the people that I was sitting down and having my lunch with, and who became my circle of friends in high school. And that's not to say that there were not other people in that school that were involved in torturing me, because there were. There were a couple of other groups that I didn't sit down and have lunch with, and wasn't part of their circle necessarily. But they had shown up at my house in Moses Lake, Washington. And so, for example, there was the quote-unquote stoner group that included Miranda and Holly and Holly Reverman and Holly Glass. And all of those girls visited me in Moses Lake, Washington before I ever moved there, when I was still a little girl. And they went over, and actually a couple of them electrocuted me themselves with their hands. The adults were allowed into my bedroom. They had the box there, and then they electrocuted me. And while I didn't have lunch with that group, I know Robin Bechtold was very friendly with them and did things on the side with them, and so were some of the others. So there were still other government kids who had committed really serious crimes against me that were at that school, and they weren't all necessarily just in this one little pack that I happened to be sitting down with for lunch. But that is how I ended up back into their circle there. And so basically then, it was like, okay, do you want to come over to my house after such and such? Do you want to meet so-and-so or whatever? Do you want to go shopping with me? I'm having a birthday party. Will you come? That kind of thing. So I basically started developing these friendships with all these government kids whose families I didn't remember as having tortured me. And their kids had all grown up, so I didn't recognize any of them. And meanwhile, they all knew who I was. They were all these little bratty government conspirators who pretended to be my friends. And I was completely stuck with them. They knew that I didn't remember them or connect them to different things, and I was basically just sucked into this whole sphere of corruption. And meanwhile, I know that Monica, Erica, and Shannon, for example, would sometimes, and then Erica Bellinger showed up later as supposedly this new transfer. Real, convenient. But they would get together and sometimes have private parties. And I started having a strange feeling, because my friend, who was supposedly my best friend, Monica Allen, started acting so secretive and weird. And so did Erica Wilbank. Like, they acted skittish, like they didn't want to mention certain things around me, but all of them could talk comfortably. And one time when I asked, they said, well, we've just known each other before you ever came to our school, and that was their excuse. But there was just, I did recognize that something else was going on, and I started having this weird feeling, but I didn't want to be suspicious or paranoid. But I had this weird feeling that they were getting together and discussing me. And I thought, why would they all get together and talk about me? Well, they all had a massive secret that they were hiding from me, which is that they were all government criminals whose parents were criminals that had assaulted me. And so they had motives to protect themselves and their families, which came up later because I had some attempts on my life later. And prior to that, though, at one point, basically I wasn't romantically involved or intimately involved with anyone. I wanted to wait until I was married to have sex. And to me, I thought, well, why start with holding hands if it eventually will just lead down a road that ends up to sex? So I wouldn't even hold hands with anyone. I just kind of felt like I don't need to kiss anyone. I don't need to hold hands with them. And if for some reason I do decide to kiss someone for some reason, then I will still always make sure that this person knows I am saving myself and my virginity for marriage, because I only wanted to share that on a continual basis with one person. And that was my own personal belief and feeling. And so Robin Beckfeld started getting mad. I kind of sort of was getting together with him like a friend. I thought like I would get together with one of my other friends, like Monica or someone else, and we'd do things. And so it wasn't completely like dating where he'd pay for anything for me, but it was sort of like hanging out and spending time together. And I would never respond to even the slightest hint of like an attempt to touch my hand or hold hands or be intimate. And then he really got mad. One time I even started laughing about it and was telling Monica and my parents how Robin was acting so frustrated because I would, he would try to do such and such, and I would start laughing because I didn't even want to hold hands with him. And then at some point when I was like 16 or almost 17, when I was still 16 but almost 17, I decided, well, maybe I should kiss someone, because sweet 16 and never been kissed sounds so old-fashioned. Maybe I should at least kiss someone and just let them know I'm a virgin. I don't want to do anything besides that. So I let him kiss me, and then I wouldn't do anything besides that at all. And like I said, he continued to build up this passive-aggressive hatred against me, and started taking it as some kind of a personal failure, because it was like he had some kind of running bet with a bunch of guys and government people. And so then one day, after I was right after that, or close to being after that, he took me. I was sometimes hanging out with him in a car or whatever, and I was sitting in a car with him, and he was driving me home from his house, I think, or maybe home from shopping because he had to go downtown and go shopping, or maybe he was just wanting to go for a drive, and did I want to go with him and talk and that kind of thing. So he used his parents' car, and then had me in the passenger side, and he was taking me home. So I hadn't noticed when I was first in the car that there were a pair of socks there on the passenger's side at where I was in the car with him.